You're watching WAFF 48. This is breaking news.
You're going to hear ranges of storm surge that we haven't heard in Louisiana since Hurricane Audrey in 1957. You're going to hear the word unsurvivable to describe the storm surge that we are expecting.
Words there from the governor around midnight Central Time. Hurricane Laura making landfall as a Category 4 storm. You're getting a look at the eye of the storm as it is ripping across Vinton, Louisiana. You see the strength of those winds sending that rain sideways, heavy winds, and obviously a lot of rainfall as well.
Yeah, and look at the rain. This is coming down in Lake Charles, sitting east of Vinton, what Trent was talking about. This storm packing fierce winds. As you can see, these trees being blown around. This is bands of heavy rain, drop inches of rain on one of the cities taking a direct hit from Laura, showing why leaders issued evacuation orders.
We're now joined by meteorologist Brandon Spinner, who has been working hard tracking Laura's path for days now. And Brandon, we've been getting a glimpse of the power of Laura now that it's made landfall. If you could, an update on the strength of the storm. Also, I know a lot of people are really worried about that storm surge and when we might see effects here in the Tennessee Valley too.
Yeah, the storm has weakened over the last 6 hours since making landfall as a Cat 4, now down to a Cat 2, and you can just see how much stronger it was at landfall. The eye of that starting to close up a bit as expected as it moves over land. It's going to continue to weaken, but still bringing 110-mile-per-hour winds through western parts of Louisiana. And as this moves north, our impacts here in the valley start to pick up, especially as we move on into tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow is a first alert weather day for that potential and some strong, possibly severe thunderstorms. As far as right now, we're dry, we're quiet. Should stay that way through most of the day. We do have some mid-level clouds out there overhead. That's keeping us warm, mid to upper 70s this morning, near 80 degrees right now in Florence and Muscle Shoals. Some spotty fog possible this morning, an isolated storm possible this afternoon. Not really looking at those threats to be all too significant today, but that changes tomorrow. Highs today, low 90s. It'll feel very summer-like, very, very swampy feeling today. Feels like temps above 100, but tomorrow, that's when we'll start to see the things of severe weather as well as heavier rainfall making their way through. We'll break down that full forecast for you in just a few minutes.
All right, Brandon, thank you so much. Well, we are continuing our coverage of Hurricane Laura. The state of Louisiana has been seeing the effects of the storm for days now. Just take a look at this video. The outer band of Laura struck the state with strong winds, creating whitecaps in the water. As some in the state made the tough choice to leave their homes, seeking safety, while others decided to stay put, not wanting to evacuate the place that they call home.
Many people, though, who were looking for a safer place to ride out the storm came from the Lake Charles area, taking shelter in New Orleans, a city that knows all too well how much damage a storm can cause. You think back to Katrina. Evacuees say they will be watching the TV closely to get updates, worried about the conditions, though, when they're finally able to return home, worried there may be nothing left.
We do this every time. I never not left for a hurricane.
Just hoping that we got something to go home to.
We blessed we're here, so everything else is material. You just got to see when we get home.
One storm victim says he evacuated to New Orleans on a packed charter bus from Lake Charles. That was part of a 10-bus caravan.
Louisiana's Governor John Bel Edwards, who you heard from earlier, is hopeful most people took his warning to evacuate. He hopes those who made the decision late did it in time to avoid the wrath of Laura. Cleanup, search, and rescue efforts will not be done until it is safe to enter that area. Edwards also says their goal is to save lives, and that is why he activated the entire National Guard for the state.
Crews in Louisiana will be getting a helping hand from the state of Alabama as well. Governor Kay Ivey just approving sending 4 Black Hawk helicopters to Louisiana to help with the hurricane's impact. That's not the only spot. 350 military police also are on standby to go to Wisconsin if the governor asks for help in dealing with protesters and riots after the shooting of Jacob Blake.
Now, those aren't the only resources mobilizing in the Yellowhammer State. Alabama Power is preparing to send more than 300 people to assist power crews in areas impacted by Laura. They'll evaluate what to do next after they get a clear picture of what's needed in the damaged areas. The Red Cross also jumping into action to help. Not even COVID can stop the Red Cross from doing their part to assist.
The Red Cross has, We've moved over 700 people to Louisiana and to Texas to help our neighbors to the west. We have made sure that we've gotten supplies there, cots, blankets, food, snacks, water, just making sure that people have what they need.
Instead of physical supplies, the best way they say to help right now is monetary donations to reputable organizations like the Red Cross.
And take a look at these images caught on camera. You see these first responders preparing to protect and serve these first responders from a parish in Louisiana, and they took a moment to pray ahead of Hurricane Laura making landfall.
And now to the latest advances to help fight COVID-19. The FDA granted a rapid COVID test emergency use status to Abbott Laboratories. Now, the new antigen test can detect the virus in just 15 minutes. It's called Binax Now. Again, results very quickly, 15 minutes, and is available as an aid to diagnose the virus that causes COVID. Now, according to Abbott, the test is the size of a credit card. You see it there, and it does require a nasal swab. The cost, very reasonable, $5. The company expects to make 50 million tests a month by October.
So who will be the first people to receive a COVID vaccine once it's approved? Well, according to the latest comments from the CDC, that agency is pushing for healthcare workers to get it first. Right now, there are between 17 and 20 million essential healthcare workers in this country. The next group being pushed to get that vaccine, adults with underlying medical conditions. According to those inside the agency, there could be a vote in September on how to allocate the COVID vaccine.
And we are on your side getting you answers on who should get tested for COVID. This morning, state health leaders are reacting to changes the CDC made to its testing guidelines. The newly revised testing guidelines narrow the list of people who are recommended to get tested. Our team asked Dr. Scott Harris with the Alabama Department of Public Health if the updated guidelines are counterproductive to the state's testing goals.
And in fact, that's what we've said all along. And some of that's related to our capacity for testing. We just can't test everyone. But the main reason is that if you're a close contact, testing doesn't really change our advice to you, which is you need to go home for 14 days and stay away from other people.
And Dr. Harris says because of that 14-day incubation period, the timing of a test is so important. But if you feel like you need to be tested, there are free options available. And as the U.S. closes in on 6 million confirmed cases of COVID-19, the CDC is trying to cut down on the number of people getting tested. Many doctors say this is the opposite of what we should be doing, like Dr. Scott Harris just said. 48's Peyton Walker joins us now live. And Peyton, the CDC now saying that most people who have been exposed to the coronavirus do not necessarily need to get tested if they don't have symptoms.
Yeah, Haley, that's right. Very different from what we've been told throughout this pandemic. The data seems to show that even people without symptoms can still spread this virus. So why is the CDC doing this? Well, I asked Dr. Sag. He's a UAB professor of infectious disease, and he says this new change doesn't make any sense. He told me this just doesn't seem like something the CDC would do. Of course, a big concern that comes with this change revolves around contact tracing. If we're not trying to keep track of everyone that's tested positive, it's difficult to monitor how exactly this virus is spreading.
The main thing to keep in mind is that the CDC issues guidance, not directives, not requirements, not law. My advice is to ignore this particular guidance, that we should go keep doing what we were doing. We have the testing available in Alabama to do it the right way. We should keep doing that.
Now, one thing I want to point out, this new guideline excludes anyone who might be particularly vulnerable to the virus, older adults or those with underlying medical conditions. The CDC still recommends that you get tested after exposure, regardless of your symptom status. Reporting live from Huntsville Hospital, I'm Peyton Walker, WFF 48 News on your side.
Peyton, thank you so very much. Very interesting from Dr. Sag this morning. Well, from the beginning of this pandemic, nursing homes, as you know, have had limited visitors in order to protect the most vulnerable residents from COVID-19. 5 months later, though, those residents are starting to experience psychological difficulties because they're not seeing their loved ones. This is difficult for them, for all of us. The Alabama Nursing Home Association is now encouraging nursing homes to allow socially distanced visitation as they can do so safely.
Now, we realize it's a long ways off from having normal visitation like we're used to, but certainly we want to work to where we can have some limited in-person visitation so we can allow the families to maintain those close connections.
FaceTime is great, but it's just not the same as being in person. One of the ways nursing homes can safely host the visits is by sitting patients and their loved ones 6 feet apart outdoors instead of allowing visitors into the patient hallways.
Well, on your side in Huntsville, where a family is grieving after Brandon Moore lost his life on Monday. Huntsville police tell us they found him after he was shot on Griffith Street. He died later that night at Huntsville Hospital. And last night, police arrested this man right here, Etoy Love, and charged him with Moore's murder. According to court documents, Moore pled guilty to manslaughter in 2017. Those documents also say he served time in prison but was released. Regardless of his past, Moore's family tells us he deserves justice. And WAFF 48 sat down with Moore's mom last night.
I don't know if he was by himself. I don't know if he wanted me, what was going through his mind. Just shot him down like he was a dog, and I just don't understand. I'm hurt. I am truly hurt.
And his mother says she doesn't know why her son was shot and why he was killed, and added she will not stop until justice is served.
Around Alabama this morning, honoring the late U.S. Representative John Lewis, civil rights icon as well. Troy University approved renaming Bibb Graves Hall to honor the memory of Lewis. Lewis was a Troy native who died in July. Troy University was the site of the first of many memorials for Lewis after his death. It is also among several Alabama colleges that have brought under closer inspections the names that are etched into their buildings on campus in the wake of recent racial tension.